Hello everybody. Next up we face Liverpool away in the quarter-finals of the League Cup. Kick-off at Anfield is at 8 p.m. and it's a 90-minute and straight to penalties if required job. If you're one of the 9,000 with tickets going up there on a Wednesday night just before Christmas, I doff my cap to you. We have of course played them up there already this season, the traditional bent Anfield refereeing having a lot to do with our defeat. In the meantime, their progress to this stage of the League Cup started in round 3 with a 3-1 home win over Leicester. Round 4 saw them overcome Bournemouth away, with Klopp finding time to moan about the weather post-match. Those two games set up Wednesday's tie. Now, I'll fully admit that Daisy has absolutely no intention of going through their summer signings again, and what follows is largely a brazen example of the art of cut and paste. First arrival was Alexis McAllister, the Argentinian who featured heavily in the squad that won last year's World Cup. Daisy tells me that he arrived from Brighton for one of those complex transfer fees that are becoming so commonplace these days, with an initial £33 million rising to £55 million depending on certain targets being met. That's the most commonplace arrangement being quoted at the moment. However, he'll miss Wednesday night with a knee injury. He won't be around till January. The next arrival came in the form of Dominic Solanke. Hungarian arrived for £60 million from fizzy drink Salzburg and was described in some quarters as an ideal Liverpool player. This he went on to prove conclusively in their win over Bournemouth when he won a penalty for an embarrassing dive that was pure Anfield, gaining the fans' Man of the Match award as a consequence. It's something he's repeated on numerous occasions since then as well. An established part of the Hungarian squad, he has 34 caps to his name. The replica shirt sales figures took a boost with the signing of Japanese midfielder Wataru Endo from Stuttgart. Endo made his debut as a sub in the Bournemouth game. He had been much capped by the squad from the Rising Sun, having recently crossed the 50 cap threshold for the full squad, and he's also represented Japan in the Olympics a few years ago. The final arrival was midfielder Ryan Gravenberch for one of those undisclosed fees that everyone knows was around €40 million. Whilst he does have full international honours for the Netherlands, 11 Dutch caps so far, he's caused a stir in the Dutch national squad by turning down a call-up for the under-21s earlier this season, saying that he'd much prefer to concentrate on his new club. With both Ronald Koeman, who was managing the senior Dutch squad, and their under-21 coach Michael Reisinger going into print to express their annoyance at the decision, it could be some time before he gets another phone call from KNVBHQ. That decision will of course please Liverpool, who have a long history of keeping their players out of international squads when it suits them. He's likely to miss out on this match, although a tweaked hamstring sustained in last weekend's 0-0 draw against Manchester United showed up as not serious on a scan. He does still remain a doubt. The other injuries on the list are Matip, Robertson, Thiago and Jota, Matip being out for the season. Now let's face it, if you want to know more about this most unpleasant of clubs, you can visit their propaganda site at bbc.co.uk/football. It won't mention the strange desire that referees have to help the home side at Anfield every week, but boy will they analyse the few that go against them. That mad disallowed goal at Spurs has been par for the course for an away side on Merseyside for decades. However, you'd have thought it had been the first bum decision ever made by a referee, ever. Of course, the mobilisation of the media machine by Klopp has had its desired effect. They've had pretty much everything going in their favour in spades ever since, as if referees have had a reminder of where their priorities are supposed to lie. Seeing that they were struggling to get a win last weekend, Oliver, for example, dished out a red card in rather bizarre circumstances, penalising dissent against a particularly poor decision of his own. You only need to ask one question of Oliver, whose fanboys claim that he's the best referee in the country is as laughable as the claim that Trent Alexander is the best fullback in the world. And that question is, would Oliver have given that the other way? We all know the answer to that. Time being short, I'll skip the wild and wacky world of association football this week, save to add one's best wishes to Tom Lockyer. Having seen the same thing happen during a five-a-side last year, I can testify to exactly how horrible a thing that is to see. Our best wishes go to the player. And so to us. Well, the weekend was much, much better. Not perfect, mind. There was a good 15-minute spell in the second half, and we had a bit of rest, for example. But overall, that was as comfy as the slippers Daisy will no doubt buy me for Christmas. I've been genuinely struggling to decide as to whether Paquetá or Kudus should be man of the match. Both are outstanding, not only for the goals, but their work throughout the game. I guess I'll just saw the award in half. At the time of writing, we've got no fresh injury worries. Antonio's earliest return date is looking like Arsenal on the 28th, and I would hope that Mr. Moyes would be putting out his strongest possible 11. Prediction? Well, given that it's nigh on impossible to get a fair crack of the whip up there, my head says that we'll be stitched up by a late penalty given for a blatant dive, if at any stage we look like getting a foothold in the game. However, given it's the League Cup and a one-off, I'm going to foolishly assume that the refereeing will be honest for once, and that we'll make the most of any opportunity that comes our way. So the £2.50 that I would have been spending on Christmas cards for my loved ones will instead be going on an away win. I know you don't usually take bets on rigged markets, Mr. Winstone, but if you make an exception this time, I'll stick the whole bally lot on a 2-1 to us. Enjoy the game,